click on record. So I've seen few posts here where there are few questions on internet, like these are the questions for the senior DBAs. These are all the questions like part 1, part 2. If you wanted to know answers for this, yes, I can do that. Or if you want something else, I'm there to help, like only from interview standpoint, how to answer these kind of questions, like the questions what you are seeing on my screen. So you want me to go with these questions or you want me to go with Azure? It's your choice. So what should I do? Am I audible?
Yes, Vamshi, you're audible.
Okay.
Yes,
So
can
you
go
want
with
me
this.
to go with these questions, this list, or the Azure questions? Like anything is fine for me.
Go ahead with those questions like you have that at the moment. Vamsi.
Okay, so I think we have part 2 and part 1. Looks like this is part 2. I don't know where is part 1. Maybe I need to check this guy's post. Let me start now. Let me just start with few interview Azure questions and then we'll see these questions too. So first and foremost question, like people, if they wanted to start with basics, they will ask you what are the different types of cloud models what we have, right? So it will be infrastructure as a service, software as a service, and platform as a service. So a typical question that comes to an interviewer is, will any RDBMS supports software as a service? That is a question that they might ask you. So there is no such software as of now when it comes to RDBMS. We have the support only for infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. So when I take platform as a service in terms of Azure, I have managed instance in Azure SQL. And when I take Amazon cloud, so we have something called as RDS. And when I take GCP, I don't know the names over there, but there should be something, maybe GCP SQL or something like that. So basically what I'm trying to convey here is we have only two types of flavors when it comes to SQL, when it comes to RDBMS. I should not say SQL, any type of RDBMS. As of now, we have only two flavors, either IAAS or platform as a service. We don't have something called as software as a service. So that is the first question what we can think of. Okay, so a basic question. So now coming to Azure, I'm just focusing on Azure. I'm not going with AWS because I'm not familiar with AWS. So all my questions are tied with Azure. It's related to Azure. So the second question is like the second interview question. So have you ever worked on migrations? Definitely this will be a big question that comes in your interviews for sure. So when this question pops up, what will be your answers? So that is where we should impress the interviewer, saying that we know all these things and we worked on this. Maybe you might have not worked, but at least try to convince them and give a best answer. So that will give a good impression when you are going for interviews. So my answer is, when they ask me about have you ever done migrations on the cloud? So just ask them a couple of questions. So don't think interview is just like question and answer. So we have to exchange our ideas. That is the main view for any interview. Doesn't matter whether it is Microsoft or Google or Amazon. So when you are performing any interviews, don't feel like you have to give answers for all the questions what they are asking. So we have every right to answer them, to question them back. So it is our responsibility to ask them few more questions. If you are not clear with the question, or if you want further more information, just ask, shoot the questions. Okay, don't be in a situation where you have to answer all the questions. So coming to migrations, so if that is the question, so I would say, I think I will open up this document by our batchmate. So I think it is, I forgot the name. Sorry, Sanjeev, I believe so, Sanjeev. So he has prepared a nice document on this. Okay. So we have all the different types of migrations and what these are the different tools what we can think of. So coming to our question, have you ever done migrations? So if you get this question, so your answer should be, if you're comfortable with only IAAS, means Azure VMs. So just answer, just hold your answers only related to Azure VMs. Don't go with PaaS. If you're not worked on PaaS and if you're not comfortable, it's okay, leave. There is no such hard rule that you have to answer every question. There is no such requirement. If you're not comfortable with platform as a service, leave it. At least try to impress them only related to Azure VMs. That is the first thing. Just remember that, guys. So don't try to oversmart them. Okay. So if you are not comfortable, say that you have not worked on platform as a service. That's fine. As long as you have given proper answers, that is fine. But don't try to bluff them, because if the interviewer is good candidate, definitely he can spot you. He can definitely identify you. He can say, okay, this guy is just bluffing. Okay, so my answer starts with the first question. So I will ask them, have you ever done migrations? And then my answer would be, okay, I have done migrations onto IAAS as well as to Azure SQL. I mean to say platform as a service. It could be managed instance or Azure SQL, whatever it is. So that is my first answer. So next I will ask a couple of questions. So uh, so my next question is the client willing to go with operating system? That is my first question. I will ask these questions. Have you ever done migration? Yes, I have done migrations. Okay. Second question is, I will, before going to answer that complete answer, before going to answer that completely, I will ask a couple of questions. So my question is the client willing to go with operating system? That is my first question. Is the client willing to go with the operating system? Second thing, does the client need any other components like SSIS, SSRS, or SSAS? Okay. Third thing, is it a new application or is it an in-house? I mean, it's an old application. That is the third question. These three questions will help you to give the right figure. Why I'm asking these three questions? Because if the client needs operating system, then and there is no chance for platform as a service. Means I can rule out managed instance. I can rule out Azure SQL. Again, I'm repeating, when the client says I need operating system, we are gone. So we don't have the luxury of going with platform as a service. So that should be the first thing that should appear in your minds. Okay. So be very clear. Ask this question: is the client needs any operating system? If he needs operating system, then we cannot go with migrations onto Azure SQL or Azure MI. We can clearly rule them out. Is that clear? First point.
Yep.
Second thing, does the client need any other components, SSIS, SSRS, SSAS? If he says yes, this is kind of tricky question. If he says yes, and the first question, for example, if he says no, for the operating system, if he says no, then I can go with platform as a service, right? If he says yes, okay, that's a different story. I can go with IAS, AS, RS, everything is being supported on Azure VMs. So I don't need to worry about that. It's similar to our on-premises. But imagine if the client says, I don't need operating system. So then we have the option for platform as a service. Means it can be either Azure MI or Azure SQL. So the next question is whether client needs integration services, analysis services, and reporting services. If he says no, that's fine. I don't need to ask too many questions on that. If he says yes, so why I'm asking this question? Again, the second thing is why I'm asking this question, because if the client needs only DB engine, then I can go with managed instance. I can go with Azure SQL because he doesn't need any operating system, right? So I can go with both the versions. But if he says yes for the other components like IS, AS, RS, and he needs platform as a service world, it could be either MI or Azure SQL. If that is the case, what should I do? If that is the case, then you have to impress the interviewer in such a way that we can support IS, AS, RS, but it's in different flavors. It's not native flavors. If I take SSRS, I need to go with Power BI. If I take SSIS, I need to go with Azure Data Factory. For AS, I think there is something Azure, what is that? Azure Data Warehouse, something like that. I'm not very sure. I'm not comfortable with analysis services. So I will say we have the other flavors. So I have to implement these flavors to get it done. To get the work done, I have to go with different technologies like Power BI, Azure Data Factory, and Azure Data Warehouse. So it is completely different ballgame, but still, that is my second question. Okay, third question. So are we building any new application or is it an existing application? Again, why I'm asking this question? Because if it is an existing application and if we cannot make any changes to their code, then I have to go with either MI or Azure SQL. Means I can straight away go with migration. Like I can take the backup, I can restore it onto MI. That is the thing, right? So if it is a new application, again I'm repeating, if it is a new application, people would like to go with Azure SQL as the background, because it is a new application and most likely they wanted to place their applications in Azure. If that is the case, definitely they will go with platform as a service. If it is an existing application, they might go with Azure VMs. So these three questions are interlinked. So I will ask these three questions first. Okay. Any questions? I'm sorry. Again, I'm repeating that word question, but I can't exit. I cannot. What can I say? I have to repeat that term. So second question is all about. Have you ever done migration? So before giving the proper answers, try to keep these three questions in your mind. Try to shoot these three questions to the interviewer, because that gives a better impression on you. Okay, so don't try to answer everything whatever he asks. So these are my three questions that will definitely, I will shoot these questions to the interviewer, because if you shoot them, then it gives you an impression that, okay, this guy is having some information with him. Okay, now coming back to the other question, like the next, the continuation of the migration. Okay.
Vamsi, sorry for the interruption.
Go ahead.
If it is a new application, we will go for Azure SQL, right?
If it is a new
in Azure
application,
SQL,
yeah. Go ahead. I will not talk. Go ahead.
if it is a new application, we will go for Azure SQL, right? But in Azure SQL, cross queries are not working, right?
Yeah. See, what I'm saying is, if it is a new application, people would like to go with platform as a service. It could be instance as a service, which is nothing but managed instance, or database as a service. So use these terms intelligently, guys. So it gives you, again, a better impression on you. Okay, so I'm repeating, infrastructure as a service, everyone knows it's nothing but Azure VMs. So I hope that is clear. When it comes to platform as a service, again, we have two terms here, MI and Azure SQL. For managed instance, I will call managed instance as instance as a service. I'm repeating this term. It is called as instance as a service. And for Azure SQL, I call it as database as a service, because in managed instance, I'm getting all the instance level features, and instance itself is being presented as a service for us. So that's why I'm using the term instance as a service. And for Azure SQL, we don't have instance. We have only databases being interlinked with each other. So it's just a kind of a template what Microsoft has come up with. So there I have there I will try to make use of the term database as a service. So in total, we have these terms. In generic, it is IAAS, platform as a service, and software as a service. In generic, coming to Azure, as software as a service is not being supported for any RDBMS, I have infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. And inside the platform as a service, again, I'm using two terms. Instance as a service, which is nothing but managed instance, Azure SQL, which is nothing but database as a service. So these are all the different terms what people are using. So I'm letting you know. Don't think that instance as a service is something very new. It's nothing but managed instance. Again, don't think that database as a service is something very new. It's nothing but Azure SQL. So I hope you are familiar with the terms. Clear, right? With the terms.
Yes.
So you got the picture. Let me draw something rather than talking like this.
Vamsi, I have one more doubt. Once application team decide to go for Azure SQL, means database as a service, after that, in database service, we need, I think, almost 100 databases we need to create in Azure DB, right? It's database as a service.
We'll talk about limitations. So it's about comparison again. So
yeah.
It's nothing
coming
but
to my point.
Yeah.
Once they are decided to go for database in database as a service. Once they build the database in database as a service, after that they have some crash queries.
Bro, I'll take your question. Can anyone help me with writing down? I will give you the permission to do this stuff. I'm not good at this, so I request someone to type something here. How to type? I know I'm very bad at this. How to type in these rectangle boxes?
Actually, go to the A and then draw the box there.
Yeah.
A. Oh,
And
okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, so I will say at least it will give you a good picture.
Mm.
I am not able to do
Change
any.
the color, maybe background color.
I'm pressing I.
Font color.
I think Vamshi, you have other software, right? Draw IO software, right? With that you can able to draw.
I think I made use of that in the past. Drive.
Yeah.
I'm very weak when it comes to presentation. That's why I never made use of any PPTs. I always rely on talking continuously. Draw.io. So now coming to your question, so we have so many limitations like cross database queries and jobs, the native jobs, all these limitations are there with Azure SQL. So first of all, we are just taking the basic steps like operating system requirement, other components of SQL, and are you building any new application or it's just an existing application? Only 3 things we are discussing for the moment. Okay, so let me clear this off. Okay, I will use this only. Okay, gone. I'll say IAAS and then PAS and then SaaS. So this is not applicable. So if someone asks you, can you name some examples? Can you give some examples for software as a service? Then what will be our answers?
WhatsApp.
What is that? I didn't get.
WhatsApp, I think so.
WhatsApp. Okay. So I
Gmail,
will
YouTube.
email, YouTube, Outlook, your Microsoft Teams, everything falls under software as a service. So platform as a service, I'm saying Azure MI, which is nothing but instance as a service. Oh, sorry, instance as a service. Okay, now this Azure SQL, which is nothing but database. I'm not writing database as a service. These two falls into these two categories. So let me cut. Sorry guys, I'm very poor in this. I just need something like this. Okay. Cut this off. It looks weird. I'm stopping this. I hope you are getting my point, right? At least. Okay, now moving back. 3 questions what I asked. Operating system. And I'll take this. Make it a little big. Operating system. And then other components. Other components. And then
New
existing application or existing app or new app. Okay, so these are my basic 3 questions. There are so many questions that we can ask, but if you ask too many questions, that will not give you a good impression. So basic 3 questions, I will just keep these 3 questions for the moment. Okay, now coming back, someone was asking me something. Cross database is what is that?
Class queries are not working.
Yeah, so now if you are building a new application, imagine you are building a new application. Now I have 2 choices here. Should I go with instance as a service or should I go with database as a service? Nothing but Azure managed instance or Azure SQL. So what will be our answer? For that, again, here I will ask a couple of questions. Okay, so for example, they are having some application where they need SQL Server agent jobs. Imagine. Okay, so MI supports few things, very important things, not few things. So let me minimize this. I'll take one more box. So my questions then, if it is platform as a service, I have 2 flavors. And now they said we are happy to go with platform as a service. So my first question will be, Very important question. What is the DB size? Why I'm talking about DB size here? What is my DB size? That will be my first question, because anything greater than 16 terabytes, I cannot go with managed instance. Okay, so that's the reason I'm pointing to database size. Okay, let me write this. Database size 16 terabytes, and again, this is only on business critical. I think on general purpose it is 4 or 8. Anyone knows?
4 TB, 4 TB.
4 TB only, right? So if it is general purpose, again, there is one limitation like 4 terabytes. So I have limitations with the database sizes. So my first question will be, what is the database size, max DB size that you are looking for? Okay, so if it is within that boundary, like 4 terabytes, within 4 terabytes, then it's okay. We can go with MI. Of course, again, I will have a couple of questions, but I'm just letting you know, think about database sizes, because anything greater than 16 terabytes, managed instance is not the right choice. So first of all, we can rule out managed instance by looking at the database sizes. So that is my first point. Second question. So how to write it again?
Draw again this.
Again, I have to draw. Can't I?
But like you have to select then from inside.
Inside, I'm trying to do something. Okay, I'll say like this. DB size, my first question. Okay, next, jobs, SQL Server agent jobs. Do you need jobs, SQL Server agent jobs, and alerts for them? Of course, we can do this even on Azure SQL, but this is native support. Okay, and my next question: do you need support for database mail? Do you need support for cross database queries? Do you need support for what's that? Linked servers? Do you need support for what's that? I'm not getting on top of my head. Cross database queries.
Login.
Login.
Windows
We have
login.
Windows login, Windows authentication. Okay, but this is a new feature, guys. Don't forget this feature. Windows authentication is being supported on MI recently, just from past 5 months or so. Okay, so if you're talking about Windows authentication, you have to be familiar. But at least if you know this, it's okay. And then what else we can think of? Okay, these questions are good enough. So if they are saying, yes, I need all this stuff, and the DB sizes are within the boundary limits like what we discussed, then again, I have two options here, like GP and BC. So it remains the same for managed instance or Azure SQL. Again, in Azure SQL, we have two models. So I will discuss this later, but I'm just asking you the questions, what questions that needs to be, that comes to your mind. So I'm just posing those questions. DB size, get the jobs alerts, DB mail, cross database queries, linked service, Windows authentication. These are the few questions that you can ask. Not just for interview, guys. This is even for the project. So even if you are working on a project, I'm just letting you know. Okay. So if they want all this stuff, I can't go with Azure SQL. I can go with MI. Okay. So if they don't need all this stuff, then we can go with Azure SQL. Finally. So these are the basic questions that definitely that should come to your minds. Is this clear? Silence. I don't know.
Yes, Vamshi, clear.
Yeah, fine.
Okay. Now let's move on. And last but not least, this might look stupid, but still, this is very important. How about native backup support? Restore from backups. Sorry, backups. I'll say restore from .bak files. Why I'm raising this point? Because Azure SQL doesn't support .bak files. Okay, so there is a huge limitation when it comes to Azure SQL. That limitation is not there on MI. So even though this is a small thing, but this feature plays a critical role. Imagine a DBA who doesn't know how to restore DAC or backpack or something like that. So for him, he can go with only MI, right? He cannot go with Azure SQL. Of course, he has to learn. That's a different story. But still, the native support, the restore support for .bak files is there only on MI. It's not there on Azure SQL. So that is also very, very important point. What else? Yeah, these are the main points, guys. Clear? I think it's very clear. I hope so. Now coming to migrations. So if I am moving to Azure VMs, means nothing but IAAS. Azure VMs are nothing but IAAS. So what will be our options? That is the next question. So right from 2008, I can move from 2008 to 2022, right? Azure VMs. Azure VMs is nothing but on-premises, but only thing is the data center will be there with Microsoft. So if that is the case, I can go from on-premises 2008 to 2022. So imagine 2022 is our target, or 2019 or 2017, whatever it is. So I have to move from on-premises to Azure VM. So what will be our approach? So here also, again, I'm giving you the answers. So let me go with another window. Okay, imagine this is IAS. Okay, I need to go from on-prem to IAS. How to start this? Somewhat better. On-prem to IAS. So what will be your answers for this? So if it is 2008, if my source is 2008, on-premises, anything less than 2016, I will say, not just 2008, anything less than, okay, I will say 3 answers for this. Rather than saying 2 answers, I will go with 3 answers. So I will have 3 answers for this. One is 2008. Okay, second one is from 2012 to 2014. 2014. This is second category, and third category, anything greater than 2016, greater than or equal to 2016. So why I'm going with 3 versions here? There is a logic here, because if I wanted to configure the quickest migration, means the client has not given me much downtime. It's just 5 minutes or 10 minutes, something like that. Okay, so if that is the case, I have better answers for this. So that's why I'm coming with 3 equations. So if your source is 2008, we have few solutions for that. And from 2012 to 2014, few more solutions, and greater than 2016, I have few solutions. So let's discuss about these 3 solutions while moving to IAS. So what will you do before moving to IAS? So what are the prerequisites? Can I directly take backup and restore it onto IAS? It will work. There is no problem. But before moving to my Azure, you have to identify the right sizes. Okay, I will go here and I'll show you what I mean by right sizes. Any questions, please stop me, guys. No problem. It's just for our interview sake. So virtual machines, what are sizes? Okay, so there are so many series, so you have to be very smart when choosing this. Let's say, for example, I'm creating a new machine, whatever it is, I will say some random name. Okay, but here I'm choosing SQL Server 2019 or 2017, whatever it is. Okay, so here if I say these sizes, are you seeing this sizes? So let me click on see all sizes. So we have these many series for Azure VMs. This is not applicable for MI or Azure SQL. This is only tied to IAAS, nothing but Azure VMs. So I have these many series. Out of these many series, which series should I choose for my migration? That is the biggest question, right? So which series will you choose if these many series are there in front of you? So how will you troubleshoot this? Not troubleshoot, how will you recommend the right series for the client?
We need to check for 2008 server what is RAM and CPU available in the 2008 server. Based upon that,
for example, yeah, what you said is right. So you will match up the CPUs and RAM. So you will go with the same series over there, right? For example, if I take D series V4, I can go up to 16 CPUs, right? If you can see 16 CPUs and RAM is 64 GB. Okay, and the same series, let's for example, if I take B, not B, we'll go with E, for example. E series, I have something called as 8 CPUs. Look, E series V4. F series. There is how to open this because okay, imagine on the source we have 8 CPUs. Okay, just to twist this up. On the source, I have 8 CPUs, and I have to go to Azure VMs. Okay, so I can go with 8 CPUs with the D series V4. I can go with E series V5. I can go with EB8 something. I can go with 8 again here. So out of all these series, which is the right series for me? How can I identify that? That is my question. You got my point, right?
Yes, sir. In Azure Data Studio, we have assessment is there. In that assessment, we will give the 2008 server. It
So,
will analyze and analyze, and we will give the best.
Yes. So,
best one.
So if you have 8 CPUs, imagine on the source we have 8 CPUs and we have 32 GB of RAM. So out of all these series, which series should I go with? So if you read this properly, we have these many series, and there are why they have categorized this series, because it's based on your needs. But I'm letting you know in front, the best answer is you have to go with Azure Data Studio. Sorry, it's very busy. Okay, I just got a ping, guys. Sorry. You have to go with Azure Data Studio to get the proper answer for that. So you have to go with a new connection and you have to analyze this. I will talk about this later, but you have to go with Azure Data Studio. That is the right answer for this question. How to choose the right series? I have to go with Azure Data Studio. Give your input as this 2005 or 2008, whatever it is on the source. Okay, and then analyze the output, and it will let you know the right series. But I am giving you, if you are not done in the past, but still you wanted to go with any series, the best series is EBD series. So I will let you know where is that series. I think in the past I wrote something for myself. One second, guys. Documents type. EBDS V5. So that is the series we should use for SQL Server. So it's a memory optimized series. I think it will be here only. Let me see. Memory optimized E series V5. So this one, you have to go with this series. So this is the right series and it's a good series. If you don't know anything, then I can go with this series. If not, you have to go with Azure Data Studio, analyze the input, and then you can go with the right series. So why I have to use Azure Data Studio? Again, the prominence of Azure Data Studio is coming into picture here because it analyzes the load and it helps me to go with the right series, because since we have too many series out there, I don't know which series should I pick up. So if that is the case, I can go with this series. If not, this is the best series, E series V4 for SQL Server. I'm talking about SQL Server, especially SQL Server, not about app servers, web servers, or something like that. When it comes to SQL Server, E series V4 is the best series because memory optimized is the one that you have to use for SQL Server. Okay. So as a base, as a starting template, I have to go with memory optimized series. Clear or questions? I will take your questions now.
Those series are for in which version of the SQL Server are?
They are available for all the series. I mean, for all the versions. Sorry.
All the versions. Okay.
All the versions.
Okay.
So
okay.
Usually, if I'm going to cloud, means I will try to make use of new versions, maybe 2019 or 2017 or 2022, right? So that is there for all the series. So this is just the size, but Microsoft, not me, I'm not recommending this series. Microsoft is recommending to go with memory optimized series for SQL servers. Okay, so I think I have a doc, but I don't know where, because I will take too many notes. I will just do something and I will forget where I'll keep for myself itself. I'll see later and I'll let you know. But it's a memory optimized series. That is our answer. I think this is the one, Azure VMs. Let me see.
Total E series is only a memory occupied.
Yeah, E series we have two versions, V4 and V5. We have to go with V4 and V5 is the new series. Again, they made as a new series. So again, there is one more thing, guys. This is very important. Not just CPUs and RAM. You have to calculate the IOPS, input output operations per second. So how will you calculate input output operations per second on your on-premises? If I am the good interviewer, I wanted to know how good you are. I can ask this question, right? So when you are calculating, you have to calculate the RAM, you have to calculate the CPUs, you have to calculate the IOs. So in terms of IO, what you can see is input output operations per second is the tab that is appearing over here. So how can I calculate my IOPS on my on-premises? So what will be your answer?
I will use HammerDB.
So before provisioning the server, you can use HammerDB or any other workloads. That is fine. But the server has already been provisioned and you're using it in real time, right? I mean, using it on a daily basis. So that is your production database. So will you run HammerDB once the database is in live? You got my point, right?
Before procuring, we need to run
That is fine.
HammerDB with the help
If you
of
are
some loads.
procuring,
With the help of some loads.
absolutely right. If you are procuring a new server on premises, it's fine. But my question is, we already have on premises with 2008 running from ages. So at that point of time, will you run this HammerDB? We can't, right?
Yes, we can't run.
We can't run. So if you wanted to, you have to take downline and you have to run that tool. I think most of them might not agree with our proposal. So how will you calculate IOPS in our on premises? Anyone knows this?
No one say. No one.
Just give it a try, guys. Anyone? Any other?
Perform.
Virtual file stats VM.
Think about this. I will just keep this only thing as a kind of homework for you. Okay. So how
Any
to
performance
calculate?
counters will configure?
Number
Any
of
performance
reads and
counters will
number of
configure?
writes, we can get it from the query, right?
That is true. Number of reads and number of writes is true. But I want, because if there is no such option like reads and writes for my Azure VMs, so they are just giving you IOPS.
Right.
Any performance counters will configure?
I think so definitely answer is related to performance counters. So there are few counters, but I'm not going to talk about those counters, but keep this in your mind. Definitely, if you wanted to match up with CPU's RAM, not just CPU's RAM, you have to think about IOPS also. If you are, because there are two types of applications, guys. One is CPU bound, the other one is IO bound. If your applications are IO bound, you have to look after IOPS. That is very important. If it is CPU bound, you have to look after the virtual number of CPUs. Okay, so if you can present your answer something like this to your interviewer, it impresses them a lot, right? If you're talking about an application in terms of IO bound and CPU bound, definitely you have good knowledge. If you use these terms, it will definitely impress the interviewers. For sure, I can say that. Okay, use these terms: IO bound and CPU bound. If my application is CPU bound, I will choose the more number of CPUs. If my application is IO bound, then I will go with maximum number of IOPS. But again, a question: how will you differentiate whether the application is IO bound or CPU bound? Right? How would you know? On premises, I'm talking about on premises. So because we are going with migration, how can I segregate whether my application is IO bound or CPU bound? So that is one more thing. Okay, so I will let you know the answers, don't worry, but I'm just letting you know how to think. Like if you're going for interviews, so think about from this angle, like from these kind of questions. Okay, for the moment, when you wanted to choose the right series, go with Azure Data Studio, give that as input. You will get to know the right series. If you're not aware of these things, at least if Azure Data Studio is not giving you the right series, then best option is go with E series V4, nothing but memory optimized series. SQL Server is best tuned for memory optimized series. Out of all the series what you have, SQL Server is best tuned for memory optimized series. So that will be my answer. So if someone, again, if they point out how you know you have to go with memory optimized series, this is not my view. This is the recommendation from Microsoft. You can say this. This is the recommendation from Microsoft. Microsoft is asking us to go with memory optimized series for SQL Server, because there is no interviewer who knows all these things. Okay, if you can talk like this, he will shut his mouth for sure. Coming back to our diagram. Okay, so 2008, 2012 to 2014, and then 2016, greater than 2016. Now 3 scenarios. If I am on 2008, so what are my options to move my database from on-premises to IAAS? Nothing but I have the backup restore. That is the traditional way, backup and then restore it here. So again, I can ask a question. If you wanted to backup and restore, will you choose Azure storage as an intermediate thing, or will you directly make use of URL? There are two things here. If you wanted to migrate, there are two things, just letting you know. We can take the backup to disk and then copy it to storage. And then from there, you can restore it onto IAAS. That is one way. Or you can make use of backup to URL. URL is nothing but storage account. So it will directly go to the storage containers and then you can restore it from there. So if you wanted to eliminate that extra step, you can go with URLs. But again, I'm letting you know, few companies will not allow you to take backups directly onto containers because they wanted their backups to be protected. If that is the case, you have to go with backups to disk, copy from your disk to what is that? To store the containers, and then from there you have to restore. So that is one thing. I'm just letting you know the basic answers.
I think in SQL 2008, backup URL is not supported, right, Azure?
Backup URL is there from 2012. Yes, you are right. So 2008, I don't have any other options. Take to disk and then copy and then restore. The traditional way. I'm talking about the traditional way. And is there any other way? So apart from backup restore, we can think about log shipping, right? Log shipping, I can do it because the source is 2008. I can copy it onto my destination. My question again here. So can I do log shipping from 2008 to 2019? Imagine my target is 2019 and my source is 2008. Can I do log shipping?
No, I think it's not possible.
May not.
And next 3 series on, right? 8, 12, 14, 16, something, right?
Ever tried or just a guess?
First we need to get it to 2016 and then we need to go to 2019. That on-prem we have done.
Again, now thanks for your answer because this made me to think in another way. So just a traditional question, guys. I have a backup of 2008. So I wanted to restore it onto 2019. Will it allow us? Will it allow me to restore that?
Directive can't.
Okay. So what should I do then?
So intermediate server, like we need to
we can restore,
Intermediate
right?
server 2016.
Just letting you know, guys. Just letting you
We can
know.
restore the backup.
Yes, we can restore the backups. There is no problem whatsoever. And again, I'm letting you know, even for 2005 also, if I'm not wrong, you can directly restore onto 2019. It's very much possible. You don't need any intermediate servers. Those answers comes into picture only if you're dealing with in-place upgrades, not with side-by-side. Okay, this is side-by-side. We have one server on premises here, and we have one more server here. If I'm on 2008, I can take the backup.bak and I can restore it onto my 2019. It is very much feasible. Okay, so I'll just let you know. I'm not talking something rubbish. Let me show you.
Just one question.
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
why it supports in place and why why it doesn't support in place and why not in side by side?
Why?
So if it is
Yeah.
allows us to restore from 2019 or 2005 to 2019. So it should support in both in place or side by side, right?
I will let you know. That is a bit more complicated answer. It needs bit internals. I'll talk about that. Just a second. Just give me 1 second. Backup and restore. I think there should be some article if I'm not wrong. SQL Server skills 2005 backup. I'll say SQL skills 2005 backup restore onto 2014 or 2016. Yeah, I think this is the one. Okay, you can upgrade from any version 2005 plus to any other version. Okay, so see, this is the myth. There are few myths that just floats around across all the WhatsApp groups, all the SQL groups, whatever it is. So if you can avoid those myths, you are a smart DBA. Okay, so see this, right? This is from Paul Randall, guys. I am just letting you know. So he's the best guy when it comes to SQL Server. You know about Paul Randall, I believe so. So I'm not stating this. This is being presented by Paul Randall. So he took the backup of 2005 and he's trying to restore it onto 2016. So, and I tried it successfully on 2014, 2012 as well. And he can directly is able to restore it onto 2016. Okay. So when you are answering this, if it's supposed 2016, definitely it will support 2019 also, because 2005, there is a gap of 3 or 4 versions. For example, 2008 is there, 2012 is there, 2014 is there. I already crossed the 3, 2016. Right. So this is the 4th version. 4 versions are there in between 2005 and 2016. Still, I'm able to leverage this. That means definitely it will work even for 2019 and 2017 also. So if you are doing side by side, if someone asks you whether you can take the backup and restore it onto the higher version, yes, very much possible. Okay. So this is only for side by side, not for in place. So why not in place? Why not in place means in place is doing lot many things. It has to upgrade its software. For in place, generally not just SQL Server, for any RDBMS, there is a thumb rule like n-2. They have to follow that because of the limitations that are that comes naturally with any product. Okay, so if you ask me why, I will talk about one more article. So it's something called as database engine version, not 2012 or 2014. It's something with number 640, 660, something is there. So there is one article related to that. I will check that article and I will let you know. I think Mohammed, right? Zaim. The question is from Zaim, if I'm not wrong.
No, Swapnil.
Oh, Swapnil, you are there. Oh, hi, Swapnil. After many
Yeah,
days.
after a long time.
Yeah.
But Vamsi, like when we are talking about like side by side, we are talking about maybe lock shipping, right? When we are talking about in place, we are generally talking about when we are talking about in place, so we are directly taking a backup maybe or something like that, and then try to restore it, right?
So in place, side by sides, in place is nothing but if you're having Microsoft 2003, okay, on your laptop, you have Microsoft 2003 and it is an outdated product. We know that, right? So you got a product from Microsoft with a new Microsoft Office with version 2010 or 2014, whatever it is. So what will you do? You will just click on the software and it will launch the software and it overwrites 2003, right? Or 2007, whatever it is. So in the similar fashion, in place upgrade is nothing but on top of the existing SQL Server, you are trying to overwrite that software with the newer software version. So that is in place upgrade. Whereas side by side, I have two servers here. And also one more thing, when it comes to in place upgrade, we are doing it on the same server. Whereas on side by side, I'm getting a new server. I'm purchasing the hardware for my new server and I'm creating the OS, I'm creating the network, everything I'm doing. Okay, it's just the database migration what I'm doing when it comes to side by side. Whereas in place, you're not buying any new server, it's the existing server, it's the existing server. On top of it, you are overwriting the software, just like any new version. So Microsoft Office or VLC Media Player, Windows Media Player, whatever what you have, you are just overwriting the software when you get the new version, right? So in the similar fashion, you are doing it for SQL Server, which is highly risk element is there. If something goes wrong, it's very hard to come back, roll back.
Right.
If I am on side by side, definitely there are many options to roll it back. So I'm very much safe here. So someone pointed me, thanks for that. 2008 doesn't support backup to URL. It is only there from 2012. That's true. And coming to 2012. So if I am on 2012, okay, and I wanted to move to IAAS. So what can I do? Again, I didn't answer for this question. Lock shipping. Can I configure lock shipping from 2008 to 2019? That was my question. So someone said no. Some said maybe. So what will be your answer now after reading this statement?
Yes, possible, Vamsi.
So it is possible, but nevertheless, we didn't try. So better I will try and let you know. But it is possible. Technically speaking, there are no objections. So I will say yes. But if there are any limitations, I will let you know. Where is that? So that will be my answer. If I mean, backup restore is one approach, and then lock shipping is one more approach. And I don't recommend mirroring. It's gone. So I can't do that. And if it is only with the few tables, we can go with replication. That's a different story. And will you make use of, again, a question here, will you make use of any tool for doing this, or will you do on your own? Means my question is, oh, sorry, I'm running out of battery. Will you make use of any tools here for migrating 2008 from 2008 to 2019? I mean, from on-premises to IaaS. Tools in the sense Azure Data Studio or Azure DMS. Will you make use of it?
Azure Data Studio.
Okay, I'm repeating. Azure Data Studio, you can make use of that tool because Azure Data Studio supports two types of migrations, online and offline. If that is the case, you can make use of Azure Data Studio. But still, if I am at your place, I won't consider Azure Data Studio for VMs, at least for VMs. For IaaS, I don't use Azure Data Studio. Just for identifying the right series, I will make use of Azure Data Studio. That's it. And I will not make use of this. But if you wanted to leverage migration from Azure Data Studio, it is very much possible. You can do it from Azure Data Studio because you can take the source and you can take the destination. You can copy the backup files. Not you. Data Studio itself will copy the backup files for you, and it will try to restore. You have to schedule a restore. Of course, it won't restore. You have to do the restore. So I have never made use of my Azure Data Studio for migration purpose when it comes to target as Azure VMs. I didn't do that, but you can make use of it. That is very much possible. Okay, and then log
Vamsi,
shipping.
can you please repeat? Can you please repeat this statement?
I means which one? Online and
Azure,
offline thing, right? Okay.
Yes.
Let me show you that article. Azure Data Studio. It's just if you once you search, you will get to know. Okay, so 1 second. There is one article. Sometimes I forgot this. This is the architecture, guys. See, the source server can be 2008 to anything, and it is using Azure DMS. And my target can be anything: Azure VMs or Azure MI or Azure SQL. All the three flavors I can host. I can do it with Azure Data Studio. That is the beauty of Azure Data Studio. That's why I discussed this extensively in my course. So if you are comfortable with Azure Data Studio, you can make use of it. Just give me a second. There is one thing called as online and offline. I think FAQ here it is.
DMS also possible, right? Offline online migration.
DMS, yes, it is possible, but now it is outdated. DMS itself is outdated tool now. Okay, I think you will get it.
Once Azure Data Studio come into the picture, all are
yeah, outdated only. That's true. Online, offline, where I will get this? This is the thing I was talking about. You have to click on Azure recommendation, and you have to collect the performance data. Then only it will come up with the right tool, right series, okay, right recommendations, I would say. I have one thing. Okay, I will check that later. Online, offline, there is one article. I will refer that and I'll let you know. Okay, coming back to our questions. So 2008 is like that. Coming to 2012 and 2014, will it make any difference when my source is 2012 or 2014? And I wanted to migrate to IAAS. Why I have written 3 different versions over here? Do you think anything will change over there? Think about it and let me know.
I think in 2012 we had always on.
Yes, so this is very typical answer, guys. So if you wanted to outsmart the interviewer, and this works only if you are able to create always on between the existing on-premises and the new IAAS, the new version. But again, there is a huge constraint here. All these servers should be under one Windows cluster. Okay, so means imagine on-premises I have 2 replicas, node 1 and node 2, and you have built up a new IAS machines, node 3 and node 4. Okay, and client is not giving you the downtime, is giving you a minimal downtime. If that is the case, if you are on 2012 or 2014 and you wanted to migrate from on-premises to IAS, again I'm saying it's very risky. I don't recommend, but still, if there is no option, yes, you can think about this. But the only constraint here is, again, I'm repeating, if it is 2012, 2014, if it is 2012, 2014, the only constraint is all these 4 replicas, that means node 1, node 2 on on-premises, node 3 and node 4 on IAS should fall into one Windows failover cluster. One Windows failover cluster. That is very, very important thing. And that is a kind of bottleneck for infrastructure team. It's not going to be that easy, but still it is possible. If you don't have downtime and you wanted to leverage a very quick migration, you can configure always on between on-premises and Azure VMs, and it has to fall under one Windows failover cluster. Okay, but if you are from 2016 and above, then you don't have that limitation. You can create one more Windows failover cluster here. I will have one existing Windows failover cluster here, and I can configure distributed availability groups between them. That is the beauty of distributed availability groups. Now, I hope you got the important difference, right? 2012, 2014 does support always on, that is there. But the challenging part is all the 4 replicas as in our example, it has to fall under one Windows failover cluster, which is very difficult to configure. Not for us, for the infra team, because they have to make a connection to the this cluster and this cluster, and they have to make connection from on-premises to IAAS, and they have to make so many changes to their AD, networking, everything. So it will be extremely difficult to configure that. But I have shown you one demo where I have set up always on between on-prem and IAAS. It is possible. It is possible, but the only bottleneck is all the 4 replicas should fall into one Windows failover cluster.
If at all you're speaking, I'm not able to hear you.
Is it the same for all or only for you? Oh God.
No, we can hear
No,
you.
we can hear you. We can hear you. Vamsi.
Oh, thank God. I was literally frightened because I was just talking continuously, and if that is the case, it would have been a huge
we would-
problem.
No, we would let you know for sure.
Yeah. And if you are on 2016, you have that luxury because you don't need to disturb the existing Windows failover cluster. This setup will remain the same, and I will create one more Windows failover cluster here, and I will configure distributed availability groups. And if you wanted to perform switchover, it's just a matter of seconds. If everything is good, I can just flip it over and I can make these databases online, and I can remove this on-premises altogether later. Okay, so these are the approaches for my on-premises. Just letting you a high glance. Okay, if you have any questions, I will take this up, and tomorrow we'll see with MI and the other counterparts, Azure SQL, and how to do the migrations and all. Oh, I was talking continuously. I'm feeling thirsty.
Will we do will you do some demos as well for migration?
I've done this.
Yeah, but again, as you told me.
No, I can't do another migration. We completed that. So again, I'm showing you guys. Let me show you that part.
Vamsi bhaiya, sorry for disturbing you. How much
Go ahead.
time we will continue more? Actually, I got a call from.
We are done.
so
We
I
are
need to
done.
disconnect.
You can drop off, no problem. We are almost done. So for the people who took my classes, so if you see here, there is one class always on between on-premises and Azure. Means Azure VMs here, means IAAS, and distributed availability groups between on-premises and Azure. So we have 2 videos over here. So that talks about how to configure these options.
Okay.
Okay. So
okay, yeah. Thank you, Vamsi.
Any questions? If not, we'll catch you tomorrow with MI or some other interview questions. But I will open this page up for you. Like these questions, I will talk this as well. Part 1 and part 2, I will grab those questions. I will keep this in WordPad or whatever it is. So I will answer those questions as well.
Okay, yeah.
If you have any specific questions related to interview, please let me know. So with that, we can discuss in our group and it will benefit for all, right? Definitely interview will be the highest standpoint for all of you. So if you can answer something like what we discussed, it will be a huge benefit for you guys. That's the main intention of taking this class without drinking water. I'm feeling thirsty. Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Vamsi. Yeah, we'll talk tomorrow on this.
Yeah. Take care, guys.
Vamsi.
Yeah.
Sorry for that, Vamsi, but how do you know what that application server is CPU bound?
Those questions I will answer. No, don't worry. CPU bound, IO bound is one question. Second question is how will you calculate IOPS? Make a note of these 2 questions. How to figure out whether it is IO bound or CPU bound. The second question is how will you calculate IOPS for on-premises? Okay, so keep that as a note. If you want, you can search on the internet and come back with your answers. I will definitely let you know how to characterize that. And also very important thing, not much, because most of us definitely will work with OLTP, not OLAP, because OLAP is something again different. So I'm just concentrating on OLTP because even I didn't work on OLAP. Okay, so I'm letting you know because there are again 2 types of flavors, OLTP, OLAP. All of us, what we are working, they are mostly tied with OLTP, not OLAP.
But the people are asking for that as well.
They will ask, but you can say if you can answer like this, and if you are answering correctly, that is good, right? So I'm just sharing you one interview of mine. That was my first interview. Okay, so when I went to the interview, it was 2010. It was in 2010. That was my first interview. First or second, I don't remember that. He asked me about 10 questions. All the 10 questions are very difficult. Like I will let you know those questions tomorrow. I was able to answer only 3 questions out of those 10 questions, 3 or 4. Rest of the 6, I was not able to answer. I said, I don't know. But still, I got selected. So why I got selected? Later, that guy, that manager came to me and he told me the 4 questions, what I answered it properly. There were no mistakes. They were very clear. You are very clear with the concepts. That's what he said. So even though I have not answered other 6 questions, the 4 questions, what I answered, I was very confident and it was very clear. So that is very important, guys. Don't try to, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but that is for your first job. Now, once you have experience and you are asking for salary, people are like the interviewers are.
I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that. But
Yeah.
at the same time, if you are very good with all the questions and if you're not able to answer 1 or 2, if you are a good interviewer and if you don't have that egos, then definitely I will select that guy. If that guy is like egoistic and he doesn't want to select you, that's a different story. I'm not talking about those interviews because I've seen few interviews. I've come across few people where even after answering all the questions, they have not selected me. Okay, so sometimes it's not our mistake. So don't feel bad that you are not selected. Sometimes it's not our mistake. So keep the positive sides only and try to improve your knowledge. That's the only message what I can pass. Okay, so I will catch you tomorrow with other interview questions and I will pass my answers. You can just go with the same answers. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Vamsi. Bye.
Thank you, Vamsi.
Yeah. Take care, Des. Bye bye.
Thank you, Vamsi. Take care.
Thank you, Vamsi.
Yeah. Bye.